Starfish belong to the phylum Echinodermata and the class Asteroidea. Echinoderms are all marine-based organisms, and there are about 7,000 known species, with around 1,900 being different species of starfish, also known as sea stars. No species of echinoderms are known to live in fresh water, as they need salt water for osmotic regulation of their body. Other well-known groups of echinoderms are sea urchins and sea cucumbers. In this Animal-Wized article, we will review the life cycle of the starfish. In addition to knowing the starfish life cycle, its stages and reproduction, we will talk about its physical characteristics, what they eat, and other fascinating facts such as whether sea stars are hermaphrodites. To better understand the life cycle of starfish, we must know that these echinoderms have dioecious sexes, i.e., there are female and male individuals. While some associate starfish with hermaphroditism, there are hardly any hermaphrodite species. They have a complex reproductive cycle, with young individuals going through 2 stages before settling on the seafloor as adult starfish. 1. Fertilization and formation of the zygote. Starfish have external fertilization. Both males and females release their eggs and sperm, respectively, to the outside. The sperm and eggs contact each other in the marine environment, causing fertilization of the eggs and subsequent formation of the zygote. Some species can reproduce throughout the year, and others only do so at specific times. 2. Larval stage. Once the zygote has formed, it transforms into an embryo in a few minutes. From here, a larva is created in relatively little time. Starfish have 5 different types of larvae depending on the species: bipinnaria, brachyolaria, barrel-shaped larva, and non-brachyolaria larva. Some species will only have one type of larva during their juvenile development, and other species will have several larval forms during their development. These small larvae wander as planktonic organisms for days or weeks in the ocean, feeding on plankton smaller than themselves. In some cases, the last larval stage before entering the juvenile phase does not need to feed and simply wanders until it finds a suitable place to settle. Species without larval stage. Some starfish do not have a larval stage during their development. Instead, it has a phase called the mesogon. These stars go directly from embryo to juvenile. 3. Juvenile stage. Sea stars with a larval stage enter the juvenile stage through a metamorphosis. The rest do so by morphogenesis, meaning species with a mesogon phase change from embryos to juveniles. They will already have the adult form, but a smaller size, and they will not yet be fertile. Some studies suggest that the larvae or mesogons are attracted by the pheromones released by adult individuals of their species to establish themselves in the most conducive areas for survival. 4. Adult stage. After a while, the juvenile individual will have reached the weight of the adult starfish and will be able to reproduce. As we stated before, starfish mainly have separate sexes and reproduce via sexual reproduction. Only some species can reproduce via asexual reproduction. It is unusual, and usually occurs at adverse times, for example when a predator attacks them. If they lose one of their arms, the severed appendage may give rise to a new star genetically identical to the original. In addition, the original will be able to regenerate a new arm. Starfish reproduction. Starfish are incredible creatures with a fascinating lifestyle. One of the most fascinating things about them is how they reproduce. This is because starfish can reproduce sexually, by mating with another starfish, or asexually, by making a copy of themselves but at a high price. Let's first take a look at their main type of reproduction, sexual reproduction. Then, we'll see the difference to their asexual reproduction. How starfish reproduce sexually. The reproduction of starfish begins when the right environmental conditions exist. Most of them reproduce during the warmer season. Many also choose the days of high tide. Then, to sexually mate they spawn. This means that they mate by releasing their sex cells into the water. Starfish do this by gathering in groups called spawning aggregations. This increases the likelihood that the sperm and egg will find each other. Starfish have sexual organs, also called gonads, on each of their arms. It's important to mention that mating strategies can slightly vary from species to species. Once in their spawning aggregation, starfish interlock their arms. This causes the synchronized release of gametes by both sexes. Females release their eggs and males their sperm. This is how external fertilization occurs, the beginning of the life cycle of a starfish. This type of mating is called pseudocopulation, since there is physical contact but no penetration. There is no pregnancy. Embryos are formed and developed in the water. In some species they will form and develop on the body of the parents. Therefore, most starfish are oviparous, as the embryos is formed and developed externally. However, there are certain species of starfish, like the Poderiella vivipara, that are viviparous as their young develop within the gonads of their parents. They become fully independent and leave their parents once they have fully developed their 5 arms. In some species, such as the sand star Archaster typicus, pseudocopulation is done in pairs. A male stands on top of a female, interspersing his arms. Viewed from above, they look like a single 10-pointed star. They can stay like this for a whole day, so much so that, many times, they are covered by sand. Lastly, as in the previous case, both release their gametes and external fertilization occurs. In the latter case, although the mating is done in pairs, they are also added in groups. That way, they increase their chances of reproducing, as well as having several offsprings throughout the same reproductive season. Therefore, starfish are clearly polygamous animals.